Dr. Richard Carrier, and you are watching Atheist Edge.
What are they about?
Okay, so
it's all a bunch of random.
we're answering this dude's questions that he
all
had.
right, so Atheist Edge, here's the host, except for Lance, he should be here shortly.
Hey guys.
There's a guy, what's his name? Fendi J. He's
Fendi J.
a user. He left a comment, a long series of comments on one of our videos, and he's got 25 questions that he doesn't think atheists can answer. So we're just gonna, we got an hour before we start going live, so we're gonna try to knock these out for him. Here we go.
All right, pitch him.
He's a user of what?
Why does anything exist?
Who's going first?
It doesn't matter. Why does anything exist?
Why does something exist rather than
why
nothing?
Does any, okay.
That's a better way to phrase. That's a better way to phrase that.
No,
but
change the question.
Why does anything exist? Is it not supposed to exist? Can it not exist?
Well, things
What's
like
the
that.
alternative?
For me, I always kind of go to, you know, just because religion pretends to have an answer doesn't mean their answer is right, and it doesn't mean that atheism has to answer that question for you.
Right.
And so there are a lot of things we know about why we're here, but there are a lot of things we still don't know. That doesn't mean that you need to rely on God of the gaps.
Well, I mean, I just think any kind of meaning that you're going to imbue into something is conceptual. Anyways, it's arbitrary based on human consciousness. I mean, it's not like, yeah, subjective. It's subjective whims for us to even classify things.
Like how versus why are we here? Like how
Sorry,
are we
I
here?
got to keep you guys rolling.
Go ahead.
So, okay, next one. Number 2, how did the universe begin? What caused the Big Bang?
We don't know. I don't think.
That's my answer.
Nobody,
Yeah.
we don't know.
I don't know, and you don't either.
I don't know, and
We
I
don't
don't. But
either.
I don't think you know. I don't think the answer that you give to that question is sufficient.
Yeah, my answer to the first question was kind of the answer to that.
Yep. Okay, number 3. I'm going to try. Some of these questions are really long. I'm going to try to paraphrase them. Where do you get your morals from?
Rational understanding for the consequences of my actions.
An evolution of being social creatures.
That far maybe.
I care about people without being told
Right.
to.
Yeah. There's people I care about. So.
Yeah, it's a separate question, but like secular morality versus religious is a whole thing.
I think morality is a good tool for us to fucking change and or reorient ourselves towards what's important in our life. Mm-hmm. So it's necessary anyway by virtue of it existing.
Why are humans different from the rest of the animals? This is number 4. Why? I'm paraphrasing here. Why are humans different from the rest of the animal kingdom in the fact that we have emotional reactions and awareness of our decisions?
Pretty sure.
You just said it.
Yeah,
well,
okay,
there's that. There's a higher percentage of your brain mass being dedicated to your higher reasoning skills, which is the prefrontal cortex.
Prefrontal cortex is what differentiates.
That's what makes us different. But we also, in a lot of ways, we aren't any different. We are animals, and we don't have any more or less value per se. But it doesn't mean that human beings don't have any value. I think it's a weird.
Well, we internally
false
have
equivalency.
value for ourselves. We hold internal value for ourselves.
That's what I mean. Is that the question is sort of strange because it's like, what makes us different. That's what makes us different, but it doesn't mean that that we're not just part of the animal kingdom.
No.
In terms of like the larger universe meaning.
We're just social primates. That's all we are. I mean.
Number 5. Why do atheists never openly share their belief in attempt to get people to transfer to atheism? Why don't atheists evangelize, basically?
I think that's what we're doing right now.
Were we supposed to? Is that in the Atheist Great Commission?
Right, because we're not commanded by some kind of set of tenets to do anything. It's one position on one. It's a position on a single topic.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
There's not a dogma with it.
Right.
We don't have a rule book that tells us.
There's no playbook. Because look at me. I'm not playing by the same playbook some other atheists might say they play by.
And for me, I don't see my identification as working for another person as much as it works for me, and that's okay. I don't think that judging people for having religious identification is a good way to be in the world, and so if it works for you, then that's great.
No, but there's certain things that you can like piece together and maybe infer about religious people. You know what I'm saying? You can at least for a fact look at that religious person and say, hey, at the very least, I know there is a subsection of their life that they have built a hedge around, and they will, in the rest of their daily life, be sufficiently skeptical to move through reality and be good people. But yet there's this one section of their life that they throw this like fence around, and no logic can penetrate that.
Well, no, I
know what I'm saying?
I feel like that's definitely a straw man, but there's truth to that. But I think that a lot of people have much more thought and care into what they believe than sometimes the atheist community gives them credit
That's
for.
a great segue for the next one. Sorry, I gotta cut you off.
But that's all I'm going to say is just that the respecting that people are going to believe what they believe and they don't have to agree with you is the main part of civil discourse.
That's not the problem. That's not the problem.
I'll just say if people are religious and it inspires them to do good in the world, to help people, if it provides structure in their own life and the inspiration they need to avoid drugs or alcohol, whatever they were struggling with pre-religion, I'm good with that.
Give those people
if
religion,
they use religion to attack people, oppress people, invade other people's lives, that's what I have a problem with.
Patton Oswalt said, if believing in that, if you have to believe to be a good person that there is a giant invisible anus hovering above you, and if you're not a good person, and if you don't do the right thing, that this giant invisible anus will suck you into it and you'll be devoured by shit piranhas. If you need that to be a good person, don't stop believing in the weirdest thing I've ever heard of in my life. All right, this is a good segue. Number 6, you're going to get a kick out of this one. Why are atheists interested in the conversation about God at all? Why do we even care?
I have weird hobbies.
We wouldn't be. We wouldn't be if religious zealots and fundamentalists would leave us alone, or leave people alone in general. Like, it's not just about us. It's about the consequences that are wrought by these people on the rest of society, and I think it's a net negative impact.
Yeah. Well, there's so much value in creating community and being in the world of the secular community of valuing truth and integrity and being able to say I don't know and valuing critical thinking. These are things that would make the world a better place overall. And for me, the reason I care about it is to change the stigma around what atheism means to people, and to create the sense of community, and to preserve the separation of church and state. So those are things that positively affect the religious as well as the non, and it's important.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too, and I'd also say that it helps for me personally. I want to be, whatever the truth is about the God question, I want to be right about it. And it's good to have a check to make sure you're not just talking with other atheists, all agreeing with each other, to interact with people who do disagree with you, and can help you sort out, okay, this argument is bad, I probably shouldn't rely on it, or this argument is good, I can probably hang my hat on it more than others. It's a good self-check on my own beliefs to interact with other people.
Yeah. Speak up a little from now on.
The only thing I have to say about that question is that I hate hearing that question from Christians, because in one breath they're saying, look, we have the answer to the most important question human beings can ask, right? It is the most important question, and we feel it's important as Christians. But then they turn around and say, well, why act like it's important at all? So they're like turning their own logic in on themselves in that instance, because
it's a legitimate question though, because if they
it is legitimate,
if they preach this stuff because they care about the truth that they believe they found, and we don't think there's any truth to that, then they're looking at us and they're like, well, if you don't believe anything, then why do you care about it? But they may forget that these kind of things do still matter to us as human beings.
Yes.
We just come to a different conclusion than
right, because we're not telling. I think that you're right about that. Christians sometimes they feel like, well, you're acting like it's not important, and that's not what we're saying. In fact, we're saying the opposite. Like, this is really important.
Yes.
We need to get this correct.
Yes.
We gotta move. Okay.
I love these questions.
Number 7. Where did the first man and first woman come from?
They didn't. It was the first 2,000 men and women.
Yeah, there was yes, if you go back far enough, there is a point in history where the common ancestor that we share with our primate cousins. Yeah. There was one.
So I can't.
And then there wasn't after that.
Did 2,000 just spontaneously appear
No.
at the same time.
There's
So
No.
he's
yeah,
asking where the
there-
very first Homo sapiens.
Okay,
Well, there's
No.
hard line.
Yeah, there's
between
no hard
It's
line.
like looking in a rainbow. Do you know? Can you draw a line at the
Between
exact
violet and
point
blue?
of,
Yeah.
between violet and blue? No, you can't.
That's
Right.
beautiful,
It's just-
TJ.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Thanks,
and
man.
On the
He
same
gave me
note,
one for a
yeah,
change.
there are many fields of science that will look at a line between a certain primate and what ended up being us, and they come to very different conclusions about the middle point and the point where we can call somebody human. And so yeah, it's just a gradual process, just like every other part of evolution, and it doesn't. Just because that's the narrative of Christianity doesn't mean that that's how reality has to fall within,
Right.
within what happened.
Number 8, why do you have more faith in science than in God?
Because it's reliable.
No, Courtney has something on this problem.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Richard Dawkins says,
Because
I would
critical
say,
thinking, bitch.
yes.
when you base air travel on science,
When
planes
fly.
rockets
Yes.
go to the moon.
Uh-huh.
Science works, bitches.
It works.
It's
yeah.
famous.
I
The
just-
technology,
I
yes,
just-
the technology that science,
What?
that has its basis in science.
I just said
works.
because critical
That's how we
thinking,
know we can hang our hat on the process. And it's not just a body of knowledge. It is the process of getting from point A to point B.
Yes.
Now, if you have a problem with that process, fucking say, hey, I have a problem here,
and make it better.
and then find out what you can do to improve it, and that's what science is. Poke holes in as much shit as you can,
Yeah.
find out what still holds water.
It's the search for truth and
There's
reality.
no testable quality to God belief.
No, it can't be tested
Yeah.
because even the Christians say that the mind of God can't be known.
All right, next one. Chris isn't. Chris,
Yeah,
you start
sorry, we
this
keep
one
jumping
off.
in.
You got to chime
Oh,
in more. Number 9. Why and how does gender exist?
Well, to my understanding, gender is a social construct that is based on our culture's social roles and how we think men and women should look, which is different from biological sex,
The
which
roles
Yes.
part, yes.
is pee-pee and hoo-ha. But
I think the roles that the gender play has generally evolved along social lines.
I
Funny
don't
that
think we
I'm-
can answer that. That's a biological.
Why is it
That's a byproduct of our evolutionary
Yeah,
development.
it's
that you identify
we're
as
a
a certain
puddle, yeah.
gender or
I mean,
as a
let me
non-gender
channel-
or both genders. Like those are things that you that comes from you, and even children know that. They know how they feel comfortable in their own body.
it's like asking why biological sex exists. It's because we
It's just-
apply the
Yeah.
term
It just
to
is.
a thing.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Yeah.
descriptive, not prescriptive.
Right.
It's-
Yeah.
You're describing something deep well.
11. I don't understand this one. Why are humans not immortal?
Why are humans
Ask
not
God.
immortal? Have we seen an example
Yes.
of actual immortality?
Well, in the Garden of
Jellyfish.
Eden, Adam and Eve
Why
disobeyed
would
God's
we need
instructions and ate the fruit of the tree of life, and so He cursed them with death, which they did not know previously.
That's another one. Like we don't know.
Well, isn't okay? I don't know the science. but
Okay,
isn't it
that's like
cells
asking-
just stop replicating properly. I shouldn't even be talking about this. I don't know the science, but there's an actual scientific reason behind aging and the gradual decline.
Free radicals, all that shit.
Tell
ions
religion to
and
stop hindering research, and we might know.
chemtrails.
Chemtrails.
Halt the aging process. Do you think it'll happen?
Probably.
Then
We're learning a lot about how
Look
cells
what we've done in the
replicate
last
Does that
500 years, say.
Does that cause an eventual? That will cause an eventual need for like eugenics or population control, birth control on a global basis, because everyone will stay alive.
Well, we won't have to if we figure out how to get off this rock. We can just proliferate throughout the fucking universe.
Regarding the
spread like
yeah,
a
it's like a disease.
Let's go. Mars.
how and why is free will and individual thought through immaterial minds possible in a universe that made material objects from supposedly nothing?
Have you demonstrated that we have free will yet? I think we have to answer that question before we can answer the question that you just posed.
That was really confusing. Say it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I know it's.
It sounds like it's.
He's
I'm
making
trying
us
to boil it
assume
down.
a lot of shit to answer this.
Yeah. How and why is
Set
free
up
will
spell.
and individual thought
Giving us
through
the rope to hang
immaterial
ourselves, right?
minds possible in a universe that made material objects
so
from
you admit we
supposedly
have free
nothing?
Well,
If we can't
I
go
disagree with the phrase immaterial mind, because the mind, as far
The
as
product
we can
of a
tell, is
brain.
a product of a brain, and we don't have any actual immaterial minds to point to.
There's a lot in there.
Right, exactly.
I think he's asking how free will is possible in ostensibly under materialism, be a deterministic universe.
Since we're just stuff.
Yeah,
in a meat sack.
Answering that question would require that science is advanced enough to understand how consciousness comes out of our brain matter. So we can't answer that yet.
Yeah, I kind of look at it. I'm definitely
Sometimes
not
we
well read
don't
on
know.
the subject, but I kind of look at the same problem as hard solipsism, where even if I don't have free will, I can't act as if I don't have free will.
Right. It doesn't matter. Right. It doesn't matter because you have to move through reality forward, and there's only one time is one directional, unidirectional. We have to move through this reality, and we have to make decisions along the way. Our brains can't help but do it.
And come on, commenter, join us on the I don't know train.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where's it going? I don't know.
I don't know. Probably crazy.
Let's find out together.
Number 13, if your individual life has no purpose, why does everything without life around you that exists have purpose?
My life has the meaning and the purpose that I create for it.
Okay, wait a minute.
I create my own meaning and purpose in my life.
Yes, but okay, if you're going to say that human beings don't have any purpose, and therefore inanimate objects don't have purpose, that's the same thing. Like, you either assign a purpose to all of it, or you're not putting any purpose on any of it.
Well, he's saying everything else has purpose, which is even weirder.
I mean, not only that, it's a perfectly meaningless distinction to even say that the universe has to have some sort of overarching
purpose.
Right. Yeah, that is vacuously devoid of any kind of substance to it.
Not necessary.
I mean, most atheists are existential nihilists in the fact that we know there is no ultimate purpose.
Right.
We assign it to ourselves individually or as societies. Now, there are some subset of atheists and maybe non-atheists that are hard nihilists. And
Just
they think
snuff it now.
nothing matters, nothing doesn't matter what you do, it's all going to be for nothing, heat, death of the universe, no one cares.
At the end of the day,
But that's a very, very small minority.
Listen to the song Gratitude from Shelley Siegel. Shelley Siegel.
Siegel. Yeah.
It's recognizing that yes, there's no purpose, but it doesn't take away from how grateful I am that we're here. Like it's not. Yeah, like it's,
life is still beautiful no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean,
number 14. Why are humans aware of God unlike any other species?
They're not.
Yeah.
They say that they are. They believe that they are sometimes.
Well, why are Homo sapiens basically the only species on Earth that have formed religion?
Why is this the God-shaped hole? Is this the God-shaped hole?
Why are humans the only species that wrote Harry Potter novels?
Right, exactly. So we had a Harry Potter-shaped hole in ourselves that we needed to fill.
It was right back to prefrontal cortex again. we can build advanced tools. We're aware of our own mortality, and we can plan for the future.
Also, just as a survival technique, assuming agency and finding patterns in things that don't have a pattern, those are survival techniques that go back a long time.
They're evolutionary.
That have it's a byproduct that's going to happen in almost any species just because of the flaws in our psychology.
Yeah.
Once you're aware,
they became the structures they became because of it. That's the ones who had those structures more prominent in their brain.
Yeah, they
survived.
were useful then.
Right, they were useful to them.
But now they're hindrances because our minds play trick.
Once we became aware of our own mortality, it was almost inevitable that we would start inventing a religion because now that we know we're going to die, now that we know we're going to die, we need that comfort. Most people, we don't. But
I definitely think it has provided comfort.
That comfort device that something's going to live on after death.
No.
Right. When you're dead, you're not really dying. You're not dead. You're not really dead.
I think that came later.
Yeah.
I think it's a comfort device.
You don't want to think of yourself as being not existing anymore.
Yeah, but I think it goes further than that. I think you apart from not wanting to die and realizing that the finality of that.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely assigning agency and seeing patterns
where
in
it's
things
not there. Yeah.
That whether or not you have a question about death or a concern about death, it's just how our brains work.
Well,
we assume agency in a way in most cases that it's just what's going to happen.
It's a rustle in the bushes that's not a fucking predator.
Yeah, and things happening in your life and the universe must be on my side. It's like people say that all the time. There's everything happens for a reason. Just because that's
sometimes the reason it's because you're unintelligent and make bad decisions. That sometimes is the reason why things happen. I know that's for me.
15,
sometimes I make bad decisions. So
number 15. Why and how are there different languages?
Evolution.
Because disparate
geography.
Disparate tribes that carry they're genetically human beings, people in the world, come from very disparate parts of our globe. They just develop differences in communication styles that have nothing to do with maybe the tribe that's,
Language
a couple miles down the road. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if he thinks that modern English came out of the Tower of Babel, fully formed. Is that the alternative?
No, it's a Germanic language. It didn't come from anywhere in the Middle East.
Yeah,
from
we
Northern Europe.
have enough history of writing to show the evolution of English and other languages over the last 500 years or so.
Yeah, the biblical version of how languages came about is really, really primitive.
I saw a Facebook poll just today, and 50-something%. The question was, do you think the Tower of Babel was a literal or allegorical? And 50-something% said it's literal, and 40-something% says it's allegorical.
That's too many people, man.
Way
People
too many
actually
people.
believe.
Well,
that's
there's
how
60% of the people in the United States, 60% of people in the United States believe angels are real.
Real quick aside.
There it is.
This is the reason that we do this. This is why. Because there are answers that religion gives to questions that are completely false, and it is worth investigating what's actually true.
Yes.
And so, having us on the side of critical thinking and bringing people into the light of reality is so important, because we actually answer things.
Amen.
And we actually learn.
And if they're that wrong about stuff we know they're wrong about,
Yes.
what else are they probably wrong
What else are we
about?
missing?
Yeah.
Stem cells, bitch.
It's the main problem that most atheists have with religion.
I haven't even been drinking today, Jesus.
There are a lot of questions about reality that we currently have as human beings.
I'm drinking soda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Religions think that they have answered all those questions, and we're saying, no, we don't believe that you have the answers to all these questions. Or we in fact believe some of them and know some of them are completely fucking wrong.
Yeah.
You have a lot of shit wrong, and this is why we're out here talking about it.
This one is hard for me to understand. Maybe you can make sense of it. How are dreams possible in a physical world of chance if they take place beyond our physical reality?
They don't
take place.
Yeah,
they don't take place.
Demonstrate any of that.
They don't take place. They're tricks of our minds when our brain is asleep.
Yeah.
Well, when we're asleep, our brain's still very active.
Well, yes, our brain is very active still because it has to be. We have to do involuntary things.
Are you saying that there's some parallel universe where all of our dreams are actually happening?
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That's exactly what he's thinking.
Oh, that was
Like
easy.
where clowns are killing things?
So
and
that was easy.
I think
It's
I
not
saw-
like people are
happening.
falling from the sky to their deaths. Like
I think
really
I
happening?
saw that Twilight Zone episode.
Your brain fools
That's
you
a
into
Twilight.
thinking it's happening, but it's really not.
That's like an episode of Star
that's
Trek on the
easy.
holodeck, It's like
This next one I want first crack at.
Go ahead.
How do you account for being only 2% of the world's population that does not believe in God? First off, the low ball estimate is 4%. The high ball is 23%. It depends on how you ask the question.
The nuns.
So we're as high.
The nuns.
Yeah, if you go no religious preference and no religion at all, we're 23% of the population.
Right. Yeah.
So low ball, people that actively, openly identify as atheists, that's 4%. That's double what you just said. So I don't know where you got your statistic. Okay, go ahead.
Well, okay, so yes, yeah. Depending on how you ask the
can
question.
be misleading on that question.
So I know
I'll be right back.
TJ's argument on this is usually, the classic, just because it's popular doesn't mean it's true. So yes, yeah. So it's just because it isn't a popular idea doesn't mean we're not right.
Right.
But also, I think there are a lot of things holding religion in place. There are a lot of incentives for people to stay in their religion even if they don't believe, or to not question things and to maintain their belief. And so just because some people have gotten out of it and have found the light of reason and scientific method, it doesn't mean that that's not the correct thing to do. It just means that it is rare to be strong enough to question your ideas, question your belief, and to get outside of your indoctrination.
Or we could flip this around. I mean, I don't know if this guy's a Christian specifically.
Yeah, he's a Christian.
I mean, once we get down to the denomination level, his denomination may be less than 2% of the world's population. So how do you account for that fact? I mean,
Yeah.
Are you the right type of Christian?
Yeah. Once you get down to the nitty gritty, now there's.
What percentage is just your denomination?
Or if you go with Christianity as a whole, Christianity is 20% of the world population. There's 80% that don't believe in Christianity. So
Wait, there are more atheists than Christians?
I'm spitballing. I don't
We
know.
outnumber-
Two billion, probably-
We outnumber
probably 2
Mormons,
billion
Scientologists,
Christians.
and Jews combined. Did you know that? That's
Take
open
that,
to you.
Scientologists.
All right, this one, the
Cut
screaming
that out.
Chris's name. So, Chris, you go
Okay.
first on this one. How do you account for atheists that become believers of God?
How do you account for believers of God that become atheists? Boom.
Boom.
People change their minds,
I
guys.
asked Chris
It's
because
okay.
he's a true. I mean, he was a true believer, hardcore believer at one time.
Well, now,
Yeah.
the one thing I will say, I haven't seen many actual testimonies of people who were actually atheist and completely let go of their belief and weren't just mad at God or, being rebellious. If you're an actual atheist and you've actually found that Christianity or whatever you grew up with doesn't hold water, it's very difficult to go back to it and actually have that ability to have faith in something even though you've already seen the flaws in it. And so I haven't seen any testimony of someone who was actually atheist and not just kind of posing as one and then, finding faith. People don't really do
It
that.
happens. There are some.
Most of the time.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I haven't seen a story that actually pans out to be a legitimate atheist
Right.
argument.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I notice it's people that probably had just some nominal
Yeah.
God belief,
Yeah.
where they were like, "Oh yeah, he's up there," and never thought about it in their daily life other than that.
Yeah.
Then when they go to
Yeah.
embrace Christianity fully
Yeah.
and become saved or born again or whatever it is that they do in their sect, then they're like, "Oh, I was an atheist before, and now
Yeah.
no, you weren't. You really weren't."
Ooh, that's
Yeah, like
that's
when-
a
like
not
when
true
I-
Scotsman, though, isn't it?
Yeah, like I mean,
No, it's not.
No, because
it's,
they're actually not taking the position
Just-
of atheism.
yeah,
Well-
just the definition.
yeah. I mean,
Just
that,
the definitional. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. When I was in church, it was the people who get up and they give their testimonials, and it's never a person who's like, I read Dawkins, Hitchens, and now I'm a Christian. It was always more like, I was a gangbanger, now I'm a Christian, or I was a druggie, now I'm a Christian. So it was never framed as I was an atheist in the way that we're atheists,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But it was always, I was just, religion wasn't a part of my life
Right,
because
you
of
were
whatever
just-
else I had
yeah.
going on. And now I'm a Christian.
All right, this
Yeah,
screaming-
well, okay, one more
sorry.
thing. One more thing, though. Like, the majority of atheists, again, like, that doesn't happen. And so, if you care about this stuff enough to talk about it in the public sphere, that kind of atheist never happens. And, there are people who may have questions about religion, but they still believe, and then they have their questions, pacified, and they're okay with their religion. And they'll write a book, but it's just like, I haven't seen any like heavy hitting atheists just, wholeheartedly be in one camp and then wholeheartedly be in the other.
This one's screaming Courtney's name. How do you know that unicorns and superheroes do not exist, but do not know for certain that God does not exist?
We don't know any of that.
Well, because we created those things. We know they don't exist because we, conceived of them.
Yeah, you can
Same thing with God.
you can probably go back to the origins of like when unicorns first started being talked about, and go back to who authored that and why they thought that or whatever. It's if after like Harry Potter has been around for a certain amount of time, there may be a religion one day for that.
Yeah.
It's something we now are aware that that's not a thing.
Or Spider-Man, somebody's gonna on the rubble.
Thor was actually worshipped at one time, and
Yes.
he is a superhero.
Yeah, and he promised to get rid of all the ice giants. Do you see any ice giants around today?
Ugh.
Thor is Thor 1,
Jesus.
Christian God, Yahweh 0.
Yeah, but anyway,
So yeah, there are things that we do know, and there are things that we don't know. But because Christianity makes specific claims that are testable,
Yeah.
we can be a lot more certain about that. But most atheists wouldn't say they're 100% certain that God does not exist. I think that's a false representation of what atheism means.
But then they would also probably say, "Don't do, thou shalt not test the Lord thy God." I mean, that's not a commandment or anything, but it's part of the Mosaic. I think
it's in the book.
It's in the book.
It's in the book.
Should not test the Lord thy God.
All right, this
Great.
is for anyone.
Or
how-
tempt him is what it says, but
I'll try.
Oh, now he's got a temper.
I'll tempt you, Lord.
I can't
should not,
paraphrase.
you should not tempt the Lord thy God. Yeah.
I can't paraphrase this one, so I'm just going to read it. How do you account for near-death experiences? People who have flatlined, died, and claim to have been to heaven, hell, or afterlife, and have come back from the dead and told their experiences.
What happens to your brain on drugs?
That's what
It's
I'm
not
saying.
reliable.
Yeah.
What the product of a dying brain is usually some skewed, messed up perception of reality.
Also, your religious identification determines the hallucination that you have.
Right.
So it comes from your brain because all of it comes from your brain.
Because if you're Christian, of course you're going to see the white light, you're going to see the pearly gates, you're going to see
Jesus.
Culturally, whatever it is your religion fucking holds.
Yeah.
It's the same thing probably with Muslims. They see Allah, they see...
If a Hindu dies...
Not probably, definitely, yeah.
If a Hindu dies on the operating table for 5 minutes and they come back, they never see Jesus. They will always see Vishnu.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, right?
Yeah. So who's right?
Oh,
nobody.
And you told me that one time. You told me this. I think it was you that told me this. That if you test a person's brainwaves and you mention things about God or get them to think about things related to God, that the part of their brain that lights up is the part that is reserved for the self, the identification of self.
Oh, shit.
Interesting.
I think I've seen that.
So all these God believers are really they're their own God.
I don't think I've ever said that to you.
Because it's funny how I don't know if I learned that from you. Then it might not have been. It might not have been Courtney.
I've heard something.
I said I don't
similar.
think I've ever said that.
Maybe from Courtney.
So, but isn't it funny though that how believers in God always totally agree with every position their God has, even if two different people that worship that same
true.
God can have. They'll say the God has two different positions on a thing.
That means they would disagree with somebody else's idea of what their God has.
Yeah,
Right,
that's what I'm
next.
saying. It's like
You go with what resonates with you,
Right.
which is what sounds
it's
best.
cafeteria.
We're ripping through these in a good pace, so
Yeah.
we can kind of elaborate on the next. But remember, the last two are really long.
Okay.
Number 22. How do you account for the historical facts and claims concerning Jesus of Nazareth?
Define facts.
It's fine. I don't care if if he was a real dude or not. If he was a real dude, that's fine. But I don't believe these supernatural claims made about him in the Bible.
L. Ron
if
Hubbard existed.
Yeah. If
Joseph Smith existed.
Yeah. If
Doesn't mean the-
But did
doesn't
he
mean
really
they're right.
have a?
Buddha existed.
But did he really have a Buddha?
Siddhartha Gautama was a real
Yeah,
person.
but he was a real guy. But he didn't claim to be an immortal deity.
He was born of a virgin.
He was a guy. He was just a
born
guy.
of a virgin from his.
That's a claim, right? There was a supernatural. There are supernatural
He was
claims
born from
in
a
the
skin
story.
flap in his mother's thigh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
who would make that up?
Genghis Khan
can't
was
make
born
this
of a
shit up.
virgin.
But also,
He was
Christopher-
born of a wolf.
Christopher Hitchens was
It was
saying...
a bright light.
It was a bright
that
light.
impregnated his mom.
Oh, God. Christopher
Sorry.
Hitchens had
He
a quote
impregnated
that's
his own
like...
mom?
What? Oh, no.
Sorry, Courtney. Go
So
on.
Christopher Hitchens had a quote of like, what's more likely that the laws of physics have been broken, or that a teenage Middle Eastern woman
Right.
told a lie?
Yeah, that's an amalgam of two different quotes, but yes, he's basically saying that what's more likely that the laws of nature have been defied in your favor, in a way that you prefer,
Yes.
or that you're mistaken.
Courtney,
Yeah.
perfect
Probably mistaken.
Perfect segue, Courtney. Next one. Did you know that Christopher Hitchens was saved before his death?
Deathbed Conversion story time.
And here's the part in the video where I'm going
That
to actually
has
show
to be
you
false.
Christopher Hitchens. So
He's
watch
made-
this.
He said,
Here's where I'm going to put Christopher Hitchens' actual quote right before he
right, and
Even when you're alone and no one else is watching, that there might be a moment where you want to hedge your bets.
If that comes, it'll be when I'm very ill. When I'm half demented, either by drugs or by pain, I won't have control over what I say. I mention this in case you ever hear a rumor later on. Because these things happen, and the faithful love to spread these rumors. On his deathbed, he finally, well, I can't say that the entity that by then wouldn't be me wouldn't do such a pathetic thing, but I can tell you that not while I'm lucid, no. I can be quite sure of that.
So if there is some story that on your deathbed,
Don't believe it.
don't believe it.
Don't credit it, no.
he said
That was a great
He
quote.
said, "Don't believe the damn lies." If somebody tries to tell you that after on my deathbed I had a conversion.
Yes, I remember
he says,
that.
Don't you believe it for a minute?
This is why our friend here, I took him, I gave him the benefit of the doubt until this question, and then I started interpreting these questions as hostile. He purposely,
It's not hostile.
he's
No,
he's being
until this
intellectual-
one, he says.
Up until now, I didn't know for sure, but now I know he's being intellectually dishonest.
No.
What? Which one?
Intellectually dishonest Christian.
One that you've read already?
The one about Christopher Hitchens'
Oh, that
Deathbed
one?
Conversion.
No, but he could just.
Oh.
He
could
has
just
to know
think
that that's
true.
misinformation.
No.
Well, he just wants to believe it really bad, probably.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just
That's
he's heard
that
it.
can be a
He
thing.
heard it,
much.
right? He heard it,
It
and
takes
then
a simple Google search to find out that's
oh, of
complete
course.
horseshit.
But do you
I've
do?
never even heard of that claim.
Does
I've
everybody
never
you
heard of
know go
Christopher
around
Hitchens.
googling their beliefs to see
Well-
if they're right or not? Though.
Not
Yeah.
even Darwin.
Google, is atheism correct? Yes.
All right.
Bam.
Number 18.
Bing.
Oh, wait.
Life affirmed.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, yeah.
All right, number 24.
Christianity confirmed.
Now we're on the two long
Oh,
ones.
that's a long one.
This one relates to question 13. Okay. This one's really long.
Holy shit.
I'm just going to
Yeah,
read
it's-
it all. I'm going to read it all, and then I'll try to give a nutshell. Maybe you guys can filter out the good stuff out of it.
Okay.
Why are ideas eternal? How is an idea of something possible?
We're all
Wait, whoa. There's so
Wait.
much more. How is an idea of something possible before the creation of that idea?
Whoa.
I know. If there's nothing to think, if there's nothing there to think of or bring about the idea itself. For example, the idea that the universe, trees, or humans can be created is an idea that existed before the universe. Trees or me, and you actually were created or existed. Ideas existed before life itself. Ideas were continued to exist even after you and I both die. How can
So the
ideas...
conceptual existed before there were brains to conceive it.
Right. They're trying to define
Show
God into
me
existence.
why you
One
think
last
that.
thing. Sorry, one last thing. I'll just get down to the bottom. If so, please explain.
So many
If
things
not-
wrong with this.
If not,
not.
why do you believe only things with life had no idea behind their creation and existence?
That is a lot
Because
of different
you're just
questions.
creating all of that as necessary.
That is
when
a
it
Gish
isn't.
Gallop of
that last
fucking
question had nothing to
gobbledygook.
do with anything that came before it.
Right. He went off on several different little tangents there that are easily like.
Let me lay this out.
You're trying to define God into
Ideas-
existence.
Yeah.
Ideas are part of the mind, and what I consider the mind is
Yes.
the mechanistic workings of the brain.
Concepts.
It's just like coal is needed to drive a steam engine.
No,
That
not
coal-
even that sense.
That
dude.
coal
it's less
is just
tangible
coal.
than that.
Yeah.
Coal is it's a tangible thing you can touch.
Yeah,
but
I
what it
mean-
produces is energy that drives a steam engine, right?
Yeah, but energy
Okay.
is something that exists in reality as
Your
an object.
brain is being fed by the food that you
I mean-
eat. And the workings of that brain produce energies, and some of that energy is electrochemical thoughts, ideas, abstracts.
And I just want to know. I just want to know where
but they're
where
not physical objects in space. They're not physical
Yes.
objects in reality.
No,
Abstractions and conceptions, concepts, are the products of people's brains, and those brains are the products of minds, and those minds are the product of
the
brains.
number two doesn't exist in reality. But if you put
Right,
two,
exactly. It's just like what we think.
If I line a rock and a rock, and I said, look at these two rocks.
It's a way for us to
And I
make
said,
sense
I'm
of
going to
reality.
call-
Stop talking over each other. Yes.
The fact that I'm assigning a numerical value to those rocks, this
Yes.
rock and that rock, the number two, that's an abstract. It doesn't exist in reality.
Right.
It's just a little tool that we use
Yeah.
to give
course.
a numerical quality to these rocks. Yes, Chris?
one. I just had lunch, but give me a couple hours, and number two will exist in reality.
Oh, God.
Thank you. But for real,
Let's hear all we post.
I just want to know where he's getting the idea that ideas existed before the
Right.
universe.
That was the whole
Like,
point.
that's what it all hinges on,
Yes.
and that needs to be supported.
that was the point of me and Jim just going
would
down
that
the
be
primrose
necessary at all?
path of demonstrating how that ideas are dependent on brains existing first.
Honestly, I was really waiting to get my poop joke out.
Okay, that was yeah.
Do you have any more on this? We can stretch this one
No,
out.
that's
if you
just
want.
I have way more.
that's a
Man,
non-starting.
there's way too much
Because
there to
25 is a
respond to
fucking
in
novel.
a video.
No, number
No,
25
but
is
we
several
did.
paragraphs.
I mean, yeah.
I'm going to try to distill this down.
Just the beginning.
Seems like he's going on
I'll stop you when it gets
It's a
ridiculous.
screed. Like those questions are fucking screeds, dude. That's all they are. Like
Creed.
yeah, it's like where you put something down on paper
Yeah,
that's
it's a
just basically
manifesto.
it's a stream
Polemic.
of consconsciousness
It's a
kind of
manifesto.
fucking. You
It's a
know,
I just
It's a
haven't heard that
manifesto.
term before. Screed.
Screed.
it's like
It's
a
like a
written,
manifesto. It's
yeah, it's
like
a
this
written stream of consciousness kind of thing. Yeah,
I've heard stream of consciousness. I've never heard that.
and it's the screed is when it's put to paper. So or if it's written out,
Like
you know
Catcher
what I
in
mean?
the Rye. Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Hey, no Holden Caulfield references here tonight.
It's a stream of consciousness.
This is a Kurt Vonnegut show.
I got
All right, so this one's multi-paragraph. I'm just going to try to hit the way it comes. All right. If we trace back the cycle of human life, any form of intelligent life, it is given that the family tree will eventually shrink down to 2 individuals, one male, one female.
No.
If you believe in God, we know that these people were Adam and Eve. I'm basically asking the chicken. This is
we already addressed this basically.
I know this is basically a chicken and egg question.
Chicken and egg question. Well, the chicken came first.
Here's the question. Well,
read a science book.
Here's his statement. Well, first off, before I continue, what did come first, chicken or egg?
The chicken, and I'll answer it. Yes, and I'll answer it for you easily. There was a point at which the common ancestor of the chicken and whatever other thing in that family,
I thought you were gonna know it.
Came from each other. You had a egg that was a chicken egg. All right, an ancestor egg that hatched a chicken out of it for the first time somewhere.
Yeah.
That we would consider the modern chicken.
But just like that rainbow analogy.
But so the egg was not a chicken egg first.
Yes.
It was a chicken first, and then they started laying eggs.
That egg hatched,
then those were chicken eggs.
If that egg hatched, let's say it was a male chicken, and it procreated with its own mother, would it produce a viable offspring? And would that offspring
That's a
be
good question.
Chicken?
I don't know the answer. I'm not a biologist.
See, it's so subtle. Evolution is a series of. It's very subtle. It's like I'm on the screen right now. You're going to see a graphic. It's going to be white to black, and I'm going to ask you to show the exact pixel where white became black. You're not going to be able to because it's going to be such a subtle change.
Not only that, if you looked at the pixel level, even black has some color in it.
Well, and that's the point, is that it doesn't matter if it's chicken or egg. It's just a series of transitions through a multiple generations.
Right.
That there are multiple generations of this animal that were somewhere in between that people would differ on which one in that transition would happen.
So Courtney has determined that is not a good question to ask. That's the answer to it. Is that it is a malformed question.
There's no such thing as a
The answer is A.
Well, it can be malformed. Because we can't get anything useful out of that.
Let's educate past the question to get a better question.
Right.
Let's educate.
And I gotta blow my nose.
Educate.
Educate.
Educate us.
I think that is it, ladies
Don't
and
let
gentlemen.
Caesar out.
Hold on, I'm just gonna blow my nose and come back and then.
No, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris. He's here all week.
To educate.
Yeah.
Rainbow.
Oh, the rainbow thing I got.
Listen,
and other stuff.
That's just us getting ready for a live show, just doing this off the cuff. There's a lot more. Oh, yeah, hi. And
Jim.
That's just off the cuff. We didn't do any research on that. That is just wave tops.
Oh, okay. He had
and on your screen right now will be a list of good resources to go to find out about this, specifically evolution, natural selection.
Go to your chair.
And by the time you're watching this, the live show will have already happened. We're doing our 5,000 subscriber thank you show in about an hour. So look for that. It's already on the... So, goodbye. How do you... I can cut out a bunch of this. Everyone clear their throats.
Chubby bunny.
Chubby bunny. Sibilance.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Did you say that one more time?
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
I don't know what the
to
hell
get
you're talking
get
about.
your mouth and your lips moving.
Oh, I thought that was a question.
No.
I
was like, what?